Good afternoon, everyone. It's Will Ferry on tnsradio.ning.com and scottishsovereignsontheland.ning.com. We have Neo, we have Nick, we have Waswan, who's going to be talking to me about budgeting, and I think she's going to give us some recipes, some sort of budget meal recipes, as far as I know. So look forward to that. Hopefully that's going to be around sort of 4:30, 5. And then we've got Kazza on for the last hour. And it's been really interesting talking to Kazza. He's been doing some brilliant stuff. We're going to kick off this afternoon, with our news stories. But I just want to say I'm going to be sort of in and out a bit because I've got a trapped nerve in my back, and it's been giving me a lot of trouble this morning especially. It's a bit better now. But, and also I do want to say, I keep saying to people, post your questions in the chat box, and then we get so sort of busy, and I'm no good at multitasking, so I can't look, or by the time I look it's too late. So, massive apologies, but, I do read them, and I will get back to you on them if you want me to. So apologies, do ask questions, I always want you to. Right, so how are you guys then? Nick, Neo?
Fine, I'm fine. How are you?
Very well, thanks.
Yep, cool.
Good. Right, so should we... I don't know, who wants to go first?
I thought you were going to do that. Bournemouth guy first.
Yeah, I was. Right, let me find him. Does anybody watch... I know most people on TNS don't really watch TV, but, I don't watch that much TV anymore, but I used to watch Rogue Traders sometimes, so this is an amusing story. I actually wet myself, well, not I literally, but wet myself laughing. Right, BBC Rogue Traders presenter could face jail after admitting £24,000 benefits fraud. Now, I don't know if anyone watches BBC Rogue Traders or has watched it, but let me just give you if you're thinking it might be this guy, it's the two geezers that do find people that have been ripped off and, try and hunt down the person that's done it, the bad road trader, and shame him, etc. There are two geezers that I reckon they look quite, gay geezers on a bike, all dressed in black leather. It's a sort of darker skinned guy that's on there, sort of quite dark hair, and his name is Dan Penteado. But let me read the story now after I've given you a bit of a rundown. Right, BBC Rogue Traders presenter Dan Penteado faces jail after pleading guilty today to benefit fraud to the tune of £24,000. Penteado, 40, who co-hosts the programme with Matt Allwright, admitted 8 offences of dishonestly or knowingly claiming council tax and housing benefit, while not declaring he earned thousands from the BBC for the show. Penteado from Bournemouth was granted bail while a pre-sentence report is prepared. The case was adjourned until July the 17th at Bournemouth Magistrates Court. Kerry O'Neill prosecuting said the offences went back to 2007 when Penteado filled out his first claim form and failed to declare that he had another bank account. The court heard that Penteado repeated the fraud in subsequent years up to 2011. I will post a link to that story, but come on, the guy, how much does the BBC pay presenters? It must be a fair bit. He was regularly on the TV every week. I knew who he was, and the kids say to me, and loads of people say to me, did you watch that last night? I don't watch that much TV, but I knew who he was, and he was still claiming housing benefit and council tax benefit. Bit bonkers. Anyway, that's my news story, one of my news stories. I have got something else. I think it was Yoda posted in the help group that I'll read after, but on to, I don't know, who's going next, Nick or Neo?
I'll tell you what, I'll read out that Nazi ideology PDF that I got hold of. It's only a few paragraphs, but it's kind of related with with ATOS and the WCA assessments, that sort of thing. I see a interesting link there, you might say, with the government policy that they're pushing with all of that. So I'll start with that, shall I? Yeah.
Excellent.
Okay, it's titled "People with Mental and Physical Disabilities." Okay, and it starts like this: the assault on mentally and physically disabled people was a central component of the Nazi quest to purify the Aryan race, as Hitler described it. Germany was facing death of the race, Volksstaat, caused by the unchecked increase in hereditary illnesses and disabilities among the population. He presented the German people as a formerly healthy, vital race that was gradually being weakened by the ill and infirm among the populace. In the Nazi mindset, those elements within Germany's racial makeup threatened the nation's health both physically by contaminating the gene pool and economically by adding to the country's financial burdens. Using the individual human body as a metaphor for Germany, the Nazis argued that drastic measures were needed to restore the nation's racial purity, strengthen its health, and increase its productivity. As in other arenas, the Nazis built upon strains of accepted scientific, medical, and sociological thinking, as well as contemporary prejudice, fear, beliefs, to carry their ideology into practice. The persecution of people with disabilities had its root in eugenics, a social biological theory that gained currency in the United States and Europe in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Eugenicists believed that the human race could be improved by controlled breeding, and conversely that it could be harmed if those who were considered hereditarily impaired were permitted to reproduce. Some eugenicists feared that the genetic contamination of the human race would prevent its advancement in a host of areas, ultimately leading to the increased degeneration of human civilization. After World War I, such ideas had been reinforced by many social planners, healthcare professionals, we've heard that term before, and public welfare administrators who believed that people with disabilities placed an intolerable social and economic burden on a post-World War I society in crisis. And that's pretty much it. I mean, it's a much longer chapter, but I mean, I thought those few paragraphs were very specifically relevant kind of to what we're seeing today with people's issues and the problems dealing with these work capability assessments and the decisions that are being made. And even the terminologies and the titles that people are given, such as healthcare professionals, for instance. So, yeah, I just thought I'd put that out there and see if anybody can, see if there's any links there that they can, work out themselves. Anything else? Do I need to do anything else? Or say anything else? Oh, yeah, wasn't I going to go about my experiences at the job centre? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got to try and get this straight. Okay, let's start from the beginning. If I can get this straight, I'm trying to remember exactly now. But it was sort of funny and somewhat, I don't know, sort of slightly disturbing at the same time, really. But I go in there, and it was my signing on day, and I go in there, and I sit down, and I say hi, I'm nice to the guy, I say hi to the guy, how are you, and all that. He says, how are you, usual introductions. And I'm sitting there, and I think it's, he asked me for my... what was it? The form you fill out, job search form. I think that's what they pretty much call it. And I filled it out as correctly as I thought they needed, because the thing about when you go in there every 2 weeks is that you're seeing somebody different every 2 weeks. So you'll see somebody one time and they'll say, well, we need it done this way, this way, this way. You think, right, okay. And then you might see somebody next 2 weeks and what you've done is actually incorrect, and they'll start saying, well, you haven't done this properly, you haven't done that properly. I mean, for example, they say to me, I don't know anybody else who has this experience, but they'd say, well, it says here you looked in the paper, but we want to know exactly what page in the paper you want to look at and exactly what job you looked at, and we want you to go into somewhat detail exactly what job you looked at. So I'm sitting there scratching my head thinking, well, that's not what I was told the other week. And they're saying, well, blah, blah, you're being told it this week. And it all gets really confusing. So I'm just trying to say to the guy, this is my experience, with dealing with the rest, the staff in there. And he starts getting a little ratty because I've dealt with him before, and he's the guy I dealt with. I talked about about a month or so, a couple of months ago. Who verbally decided to use some harsh words at me, and he's getting a bit ratty again. And I'm trying to sort of stay calm. And all I'm really is just, describing to him or asking, really, it's supposed to be advice, so I'm just asking for a bit of advice. And I start to get a little kind of, agitated, you might say, because of he's raising his voice a little bit. And then he throws the usual kind of excuse in my face, it's like, I'm warning you, I'm warning you right now, don't speak to me like that. And I'm not speaking to him in any harsh manner at all. I'm just, just being a little stern because I'm getting a bit, confused, you might say. And they're trying to push something on me. Eventually he eventually he comes. He said he made this decision, just somehow where he gets his authority to make it. But he says because he was his position was apparently a disability advisor within the. It's just like a sort of like an on-side advisor, but it is with people who have sort of come off ESA. And he said to me he's decided that I no longer. But he sent me down to the bottom because I had to go down to the bottom of the job centre, the bottom part, because I usually go up to like there's another office somewhere on the side. But he said he decided to bring me down here because he thought it was he somehow felt that he could make a decision to kind of take me from an ESA situation straight to a JSA situation. I'm trying to remember exactly what he was trying to do there, but I thought to myself, well, wait a second, I mean, you're meant to be kind of like the disability part of it, and then you're actually making some kind of conclusion that I no longer have to be part of that. And I thought to myself, well, I don't get this. So I said to him, well, where do you get the authority to do that? To decide on my behalf without even asking my consent or whatever, that you can just say that. Right? And he says, well, I'm an advisor. And I said, well, I don't see how that's relevant. I mean, what is that? I mean, are you a doctor? And he said, yes, I am. And I just fell out of my seat almost. I mean, the guy is telling me that he's a doctor. Right? So I said to him, oh God, what did I say? It was like, just the straightforward, that question. Do you have a license then? Right? And he can't look at me. He just suddenly looks away, looks at the little TV monitor, whatever they look at with, the little computer screen. And I said, are you licensed? Do you have any certifications to prove to me that you're a doctor then? And he just couldn't look at me. I just couldn't believe that, the goal that some of these people have, that you can ask them a question like that and they can just say, yeah, I am. So I'm thinking, well, this guy's obviously, this is misrepresentation as far as I'm concerned. This guy really thinks that he's a doctor.
Yeah, but hold on one sec, Neo.
Yeah.
You challenged him about being a doctor. What about others that wouldn't have done?
Well, I know. What about others that wouldn't have done, that wouldn't have realised that, to ask the question? They might have actually sat there, and maybe, if they weren't as knowledgeable as some of us, they might have actually accepted that. They might have. Really? They might have. And he's blatantly lying, misrepresenting himself, which is fraud, right there in front of me. And God knows how many times he might have done that with somebody else. I mean, the thing is that it's like they just get somewhat. They somehow, if you start asking them or confronting them with things, they just get so threatened. They just feel like they can make shit up on the spot to try and. It's almost as like they take everything personally from you, and all you're doing is just you're trying to ask a question, or you're trying to make a few statements. You want to find out a few things. And it's like, well, their attitude almost, to me, is, well, we don't care. You just do as you're told. And it is very authoritarian. I mean, my experiences with this guy in particular, and I just find it shocking. I find it shocking how they can get away with this. But anyway, I mean, by the end of it, I'm just sitting there. I'm just thinking, you know what? I'm not going to deal with this guy. And I said to him, look, I no longer want you to be my advisor. Because no way. I mean, I sacked his ass. Basically, that's what I basically did. I said, I no longer want you to be my advisor, right? Because of your behaviour today and your behaviour the last time I saw you. And he says to me, "Oh, thank God." And that was it. And I just thought, I'm going to ignore this guy no matter how long it takes, until I sign on. Until I sign, I'm going to ignore this guy. And I sat there with my head in my hands. I was in there for like half an hour, I think. Half an hour. All I want to do is go in there and sign and just get the hell out. It's like a bloody prison. Anyway, but that's my little story there.
Well, it's shocking. I'm absolutely shocked and disgusted that somebody's saying to you, when you say to them, I don't want you as my advisor, and you've made it pretty clear why, because of his attitude. And then he turns around and says, thank God, and thinks it's an amusing thing to say. How fucking funny, excuse me, sorry. How very amusing.
Yeah, I know.
I have to say, I think
Sorry, mate.
I think you probably let him off a little bit. I mean, I was thinking maybe if you took an alternative route, if he turns around and says, I'm a doctor, if you say, put your hand up, say, I accept and acknowledge your oath.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess in the moment, I could only remember what I thought was kind of relevant. And, you know, that's a good one, yeah. Perhaps I should have said that. But
I mean,
think,
he'd probably look at you strange, but it's a case of, all right, I'll go with you.
Yeah.
You know, I'll go with you, you know.
I think
If
they
you're a
just do-
doctor.
Yeah. I think they see it as like you're somehow playing a game and they want to play a game. Why are they treating it like a game? I don't know. I like I said, I think they all just they kind of take it all personally. And they think, oh, I'm in a battle here. I'm going to fight this guy. And you're not looking for a fight. You know?
But that's how they see it, isn't it? Any
Well, of
kind
course, because
challenge.
you're challenging their authority because they really believe why they believe it. I don't know. It's coming from somewhere, but they believe that they have this authority over you. You see, you know. And
Well, they believe they have. They do believe that.
They do
Otherwise,
believe
they couldn't
that, yes.
do what they do.
Well, yes, they truly do believe that. You know, but where some lower end guy right at the bottom gets any authority from anyone, or even could be trusted to be given authority, because authority really is something that you get when you go sort of higher up the ladder, because you're more experienced and more responsible. Really, that's how it used to be, you know, in this civil service. But now it's like carte blanche. Now it's like, oh, everybody's got authority, you know. Yeah, that's like the whole thing with common purpose and the whole thing with leading beyond authority. It's like the authority is no longer, you know, it's almost as if it's been usurped from the people as the authority and just given to just everybody within the power structure. We all now have the authority. We can tell you what the hell to do, when to do it, blah, blah, blah. That's kind of that's kind of how I've worked it out as being, you know. But anyway, you know, I mean, that's really just me, and that's my my little tale. Until next week.
Yeah, and what you're going to be telling us, you know, next, you know, in another couple of weeks, another unpleasant experience with the DW, you know, the Job Centre Plus staff.
Possibly. Yeah, they'll probably try and sanction my ass.
Well, let's hope not, eh?
Well, let's hope not, but I know I'll prepare myself for what comes. But it does get stressful, and it doesn't make me feel good, and it kind of makes me feel quite down for the next 2 days, and I really don't like dealing with them. If I had a choice, I would bugger off. Always sign off.
Yeah.
Anyway, up. Carry on, next up.
But you can I mean, there's so many things, I don't know if there's a way you can actually even get some sort of truce agreement with them. As long as they can stop baiting you, you will not respond to them.
Well, they're just not happy, you know. I mean, it doesn't matter how you fill your bloody little forms out. You know, I mean, part of the agreement and all of that, which is the contract. They're just never happy. They're just saying,
But I would defend their right to be unhappy. They can choose to be what they choose to be.
Well, yeah, because
that's not my business. That's their business.
Exactly.
It's a case of I want to come in, deal with what needs dealing with. I mean, if it comes in terms, if they want to get funny about you looking at newspapers, take the newspaper. When you have a newspaper with circles on it of jobs you've checked out, give them the newspaper. Say, if you want to deal with it, there's the raw information.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, if you want to know, I mean, I think, we've got Kazron coming on later. You know, take it further. Say, all right, these are my follow-up notes to those vacancies.
Yeah, and they'll probably say, "Cool, that's a lot, isn't it?"
Well, yeah.
I mean, let them say that, but it's a case of you're not a problem then if you are doing more than sufficient to not be an issue for them for a length of time until they maybe want you to do some additional programs and, you know, help the community and, not sit around all day watching daytime TV.
And eating Big Macs.
I know, they do like to have their opinions about people, especially, those claiming. So, and I certainly don't eat Big Macs.
Maybe a salad, sorry.
And I don't watch TV.
Like me.
But they don't believe such things. I know that. They just look at you and go, you watch Jeremy Kyle, don't you? No. Yeah, you do, really. But anyway.
Quite often they look at it like you're dangerous if you don't watch TV. That's a good one.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. They'd be, that guy, he's apparently a doctor and works for the pharmaceutical industry. He'd be putting me on Prozac next by the time I know it, for not watching television. Are you trying to abuse yourself by not watching TV? Yeah, I know, it's terrible, isn't it?
No, I mean, we're evil, we read books.
Oh, yeah.
Is that?
Yeah, exactly what Bill Hicks used to say. Remember that? Remember that joke Bill Hicks said? What you reading for? Yeah, what you reading for?
Yeah.
Classic. Yeah. Who's up next then?
It was me, and I'm sort of torn between choices. I mean, you say about some surreal things, but I don't know that there was one here on. I don't know if anyone wants to read it. They're basically saying that, you know, I think again Atos have managed to pull another miracle out the hat of arthritis sufferers could have their pain eased by learning to cope with the condition through counselling, scientists have claimed. Cognitive behaviour therapy could help rheumatoid arthritis victims manage the pain by allowing them to control their debilitating symptoms. Experts believe psychotherapy treatment works because it helps people focus on overcoming negative thoughts which alter the way they feel. A resulting positive outlook helps keep pain and adversity in context, allowing arthritis sufferers to cope with the condition. The 104 rheumatoid arthritis sufferers who took part in a recent study were selected for one of several treatments. A study carried out by Louise Sharp, the University of Sydney, and published in the journal Psychotherapy and Psychosomatics, compared CBT with its separate components of cognitive therapy and behaviour therapy. Patients who took part were analysed at the start, post-treatment and 6 months later on, where disease activity, joint function, disability and psychological functioning were measured. So basically, it's in your head.
Of course, your pain is in your head, isn't it?
Your hands maybe look like claws or something like that. I mean, I know from this, my father actually had arthritis for a long time from a young age. You know, I mean, he didn't imagine his bones creaking because I heard it too.
Well, and if you have arthritis pretty bad, not even pretty bad, it's visible. It's your joints are swollen. Yeah. You know, I've seen people, as you say, claw hands, they can't actually move, straighten out their fingers. But that's all in your head. Get a bit of counselling, it'll be sorted.
Yeah. You just need reprogramming, that's all. You're not thinking right.
Hmm. Did you have another one as well?
Oh, there were a few ones. Actually, the one I really wanted to do, which is not really, it's not a news story. I think it's just a very interesting piece of background. Basically talking about Cameron's attack on the feckless poor has a very long history. This is an opinion piece, it's not a news article, but just basically explains that David Cameron's attack on the poor has a longer history than he seems to know. We have not created a culture of dependency. The animus against the poor and the remedies proposed go back at least to the consolidation of the Elizabethan Poor Law in 1601, and even further. One of the post hoc justifications for the destruction of the monasteries was that these had been offered alms and relief to the idle and undeserving, who had dissimulated themselves among the widows and orphans, fed and sheltered by religious houses. One of the principal aims of the Elizabethan Poor Law, apart from the relief of the aged and impotent, was to set the poor to work. Houses of industry, provided with supplies of hemp, flax and other materials, were to train to habits of industry the idle and inactive who were sound in body and mind. This project has haunted the rulers of Britain ever since, despite having repeatedly proved impracticable. In the late 17th century, the idea seized the imagination of administrators of the poor laws that a profit could be made out of the labour of the poor. Commentaries on the shamelessness of valiant beggars and idle rogues were accompanied by practical schemes for using their labour for useful ends. John Locke thought the increase in numbers of the poor a consequence of the relaxation of discipline and the corruption of manners, a diagnosis eagerly repeated down the generations ever since. Parishes combined their resources to construct houses of industry, and if some briefly made a profit, the impossibility of coordinating the highly variable skills of the poor to spin, weave and produce lace or linen for the market soon became clear. This did not prevent a stream of ingenious devices for keeping the noses of the idle poor to the grindstone. The idea of contracting the poor out to private entities became all the rage in the 18th century, anticipating the extensive privatisations of today. The maintenance of the poor of a parish could be contracted out for a lump sum, or on a per capita basis in the workhouse of the parish or in premises of the contractor's own choosing. Contracts were made with the owners of carts for the forcible repatriation of the poor to their legal place of settlement, with clothiers for paupers' uniforms and shrouds, and with carpenters for coffins. As a result, conditions in workhouses deteriorated. Filthy and overcrowded, they were described as receptacles of misery. A majority of parish infants died before their 6th birthdays. As part of the alternating process throughout our history of severity and leniency towards the end of the 18th century, a more humanitarian spirit prevailed, and out-relief was more usual. Excuse me. In fact, topping up wages became the norm in the counties of the south of England, a system whereby the parish made up the wages of labourers according to the size of the family. The Poor Law Amendment Act was passed in 1834 that made relief available to the able-bodied only within the workhouse, in conditions less eligible, that is, worse than those enjoyed by the poorest labourer who learned a living by his own efforts. Despite migration of its worst rigours, this system remained in place until the 1948 National Assistance Act. With its preamble, "The poor shall cease to exist," which lifted the shadow of punitive detention, which for over a century had threatened the poor in times of sickness, incapacity, old age and bereavement. No sooner had the welfare state come into existence than clamour against it was heard. It sapped character, reduced independence, feather-bedded and cosseted people. And this, as they say, is where we come in. The profligate and improvident have been sheltered by the welfare state. The opportunists and idlers have used the deserving poor as human shields against the asperity designed to banish welfare cheats and raiders of the public purse. The feckless poor have been neither legislated out of existence nor drowned in prosperity. They have not been set to work because the labour they perform profits no one. They continue their relentless march through time, unabashed and indifferent to the fury of politicians and the odium of the public. All efforts to bring them into the fold of respectable society have failed, and the only ones to suffer from the continuing efforts to set them to work are the timid and the helpless. The words of David Cameron and the rest of them are truly conservative, for they have been formulated by every generation for at least half a millennium.
Food for thought there, isn't there?
Quite intensive, that one.
Have you posted a link for that article? Because I think I definitely would like to.
I will drop it in because I know there's quite a lot in there. There's quite a few big words, so it's worth a bit of studying.
But good to, thank you for reading that out.
Well, I think it just shows this isn't anything new. This is not new language or new ideas. It's the same old rehashes of the same old ideas of government. We need new ideas and new solutions, and because these ones aren't working.
No, clearly not. Just you reading that reminded me of something I picked up in the doctors yesterday, so if you don't mind, I'm going to read it. It's quite short, it's like a leaflet that I picked up in the doctors, and I'm not really that up on NHS stuff. I used to be, being at work, because we were, used to work quite closely with health services, so I've not really taken that much notice of what's going on in NHS. So I picked up this leaflet yesterday, and I'll just read it out quickly. Right, did you know Virgin Healthcare has just signed a £500 million contract to run Surrey Community Health Services? Another private company, Serco, has a £140 million contract for Suffolk Community Services. In Camden, United Health, a US private health company, was contracted to run a GP practice, then sold it to another private company, which withdrew, leaving 3,000 patients without a GP. Guy's Hospital is giving 5 floors to a private company to provide care for private cancer patients. NHS Foundation Trust Hospital will be allowed to use 49% of beds for private patients. The recently passed Health and Social Care Act enables private companies to run the health services for profit. Those with money will be able to buy the healthcare they need. The rest will have to make do with second-class service. And it's like, you don't have to accept this. We can campaign to protect the NHS. But, I thought I was pretty up with what was going on. I certainly didn't know any of that.
I think there's a deluge stuff's happening all over the place, and it's not being joined up, it's not being reported, because there's so many little bits and pieces falling out everywhere.
Had any of you heard of, or had anyone known about, those sort of changes and the fact that they can have 49% of their beds reserved for private cancer patients?
I had no idea. That's news to me as well.
I was pretty shocked.
Yeah.
But anyway, I really did want to read, and I know there's me. I said, I'm not well. But I do want to read this, because I think it was Yoda that posted it, and it's quite I think this will be huge for people, and I think it will really affect people. So, right, government to scrap direct housing benefit payments to landlords. Details of the government's new procedures for the payment of universal credit have been released, and they confirm that the landlord's right to insist on direct rent payments if a tenant is in arrears will be scrapped. Instead, payments will be made directly to tenants, and it will be up to them to pay their rents or not. The proposals will mean the end of direct payment to landlords for rent as we have known it, and the new procedures will apply across the board to local authority tenants, housing association tenants, and tenants in the private rented sector. Just quickly, before I read the next bit, at the minute they can only, you have to request it if you're a private tenant, you have to request a direct payment, but for local authority and social housing tenants, landlord is paid direct, because they assume that you're going to struggle to pay your rent if you're in social housing, so they pay it direct to the landlord, but not in private rented sector. You have to request it, but that's going to change, right? The RLA has serious concerns about the proposals. No backstop provision under which a landlord can demand payment direct. Lack of clarity, much greater individual discretion in operating these rules because guidance replaces regulations. And guidance, although, well, we all know what guidance means, so I won't go on about that. No means of redress for landlords if things go wrong. No rights of appeal. No rights of appeal. No proposal that the guidance should reflect the landlord's interest to make sure that rent is paid and that a roof is kept over the head of the claimant. Oh, sorry. Phone, sorry. I switched it off.
My apologies.
Sorry, my phone's actually on silent. That was Jack's phone.
And I've got your phone downstairs, which is ringing at me.
Okay, sorry about that. I switched it off. Sorry. The whole concept of trying to improve tenants' responsibility at the cost of a much greater risk to landlords with strong likelihood of significantly higher arrears. Much less likelihood of landlords being willing to take on benefit claimants, and that will definitely happen. This could even translate into less likelihood of a willingness to take on claimants who are in work, especially part-time work, because the same rules will apply to them. No provision for first payment of benefit direct to the landlord. So you know how long does HB take to get paid? What if you haven't been paid for 6 weeks, 2 months? That's a hell of a lot of rent you are giving somebody that's had no money. Right, we have argued with the DWP that there should be a right for landlords to be paid direct payments once there are 6 weeks arrears, and also that the whole system of vulnerability should be assessed according to the tenant's interest of keeping a roof over their head and the landlord's interest to receive the money, as well as the public interest in making sure that the benefit is used for its intended purpose. Richard Jones, the RLA's policy director, said, "We strongly believe that the government's whole approach is flawed, and although the objective of helping tenants manage their financial affairs is in isolation a laudable one, the government has wholly failed to appreciate the consequences of this. There will be a much higher level of arrears, an unwillingness of landlords to house benefit claimants at a time when there is a huge pressure on social housing, increased unwillingness by banks to lend for this kind of property, or increased interest rates to reflect the risk, much higher levels of evictions and much greater homelessness." That's it. I will copy and paste that and post it in the chat box. Sorry, getting my words muddled. But it's pretty long, so I'll try and find a link for that instead. But I know in the help group chat box, I think it was Sven actually that posted that it wasn't a bad idea to do that because you should be responsible for your money. And yeah, I agree with that completely. You know, you make an agreement with your landlord to pay your rent. You are paid if you're on benefits, you get your housing benefit, and you should be able to pay your rent with that. However, the culture that is around now means that people are lazy. People know that they can get everything done for them. I just think it's going to be an absolute nightmare. I know so many people that get their rent paid to the landlord, and if they didn't, they wouldn't have a roof over their head, and that really, really worries me. I think they've set people up to fail. They've held their hands for so long, and then they're pulling the rug underneath their feet, and they're going to fall on their arse.
I think you also look at it in another context, with, say, like things that have happened with NatWest, where people can't be paying their bills. You know, you get something like that starts happening a few more times, that's going to become a bit of a nightmare, but it's throwing it all back onto the people themselves.
But don't you agree? I mean, it should be the right thing to do. You know, when I was working, I paid my rent. You know, it came straight out. I got paid one day and it went out the following day. Otherwise, I wouldn't have paid it. So if you're struggling with money and you've had your hand held for a long time, and, you know, we have had our hands held, we have. You know, we have. And again, what I think you pointed out as well, direct payments for people's benefits. As soon as they start getting in arrears, it will start coming out of their benefits as well. It's going to be chaos.
Yeah, they'll just take it from elsewhere. You know, one way or the other it will work out. And by the time they start to make deductions out, they'll have probably thrown on some solicitors' fees and legal costs and things too.
Of course, costs for a letter, costs for this, costs for that. Well, I know I've been going on about how harsh things are going to be, and we think things are bad now. Wait till, you know, universal credit comes in and all. And I knew it was going to be really bad, but I didn't think it would. I didn't think they would do that. I really didn't think they would do that. No appeals process. You know, benefit claimants find it hard enough to get a roof over their head at the moment, to find a place that's decent enough to rent. There isn't going to be anything for them. Nobody will want to take them.
I think from what we're seeing at the moment, I was seeing something somewhere in the press, and I can't find the link at the moment, that we've only had about 25% of what's about to happen in terms of what's happening with the benefit system. There's still a great deal more to come next year. You know, things are going to be cut back even further, and they're saying the government still isn't making what it's supposed to be making.
I know you posted something about under 25s. Do you just want to talk about that really quickly? Because I think that's really important.
They're floating an idea. Again, It's a case of they're announcing things. It's a case of this is what we intend to do. At the moment, they're just letting people debate it out. But they're saying no housing benefit for under 25s. I think this was floating around. I think this came up 2 or 3 weeks ago when we were looking at news items. But you know, Cameron came out and gave this great big long list of things. I think all under 25s have to go back and live at home.
But for some people, it's not realistic. It's not a possibility at all.
And I think the other one as well is, what was it? You don't get benefits for 3rd and 4th children, or it might be 4th onwards. You know, they seem to be very much attention-grabbing headline things.
And is it a case of, we'll chuck it out there, test the waters, see what kind of reception we get for, you know, for the stuff that we're putting out there, and sneak it in? I think that's the way it goes.
Well, I think it's certainly kept the media busy. I mean, we've had 2 or 3 days since he's done it of people trying to break it down, explain why it's unworkable. As I say, that one news article about the history is a case of there's no new ideas there. It's the same old deal. The poor are getting turned over again.
Turned over and turned over till they've got absolutely nothing.
And it is the case of, you know, I start to wonder, you know, they talk in terms of some of the language, and I looked at some of his speech and he talks about giving people real work experience. Not real work experience. No.
Because you can't be paid for the work that you do.
No. No, but you get to experience it.
Lucky them.
You know, this is David Cameron is actually showing what you could have won. You know, it's another game show. It's an experience. You know, it's going to be a theme park anyway, with people running around and chucking stuff and having a great time over your way.
Yeah, well, the Sums 25 thing as well, there was the initial change, and they're so sneaky, you know, the initial change for under 25s and, you know, renting, they only can claim HB for a shared property or a bed sit. So, you know, if they were in a one-bed flat on their own, they had to move or top up their rent. How many people could afford to realistically top up their rent long term? Not many. Well, none.
Yeah.
Very few. So they bought, you know, that's come in. Loads of young people have had to move, you know, do whatever they've had to do, and then they're proposing this as I know I can't remember who posted it in the chat box about, you know, criminalising young people. If they, you know, they've done it to disabled, they've done it to sick, they're doing it to young people. Who's next?
I don't know. They just seem to be throwing so many random thoughts about. I think there was one came up about regional benefit rates.
Oh yeah.
You know,
yeah.
It seems to be just a general vague idea. You know, there's no. What I want to know is, you know, can you move between them? Will you be locked down on your benefit rate? So if you want to come south and look for work, you know, you have to survive on your standard rate whilst you're away from home.
So if so more money. So if you lived in London, you would get more money than if you lived in, I don't know, Lancashire, because it's, you know, cheaper to live in Lancashire. House property prices are cheaper, food prices are cheaper. Are they? I don't know. Might be making that up.
I think Lancashire is the lowest. I think it's got the lowest average income. Northwest.
Okay.
I mean, great parts of the north. You know, I wouldn't even want to start looking at the cost of living differences. It would scare me.
But how do you work such a system as that? I don't think that's workable.
I don't know. I mean, they're even talking about food vouchers.
Well, food vouchers have been around for a while, haven't they? Food vouchers have been around for a while. Most people won't have been aware of the, you know, food voucher system because they haven't worked with people that are claiming asylum or, you know, no recourse to public funds. But most of those people feed themselves through food vouchers.
Yeah. Oh no, I think they're talking about expanding that to include part of your benefits payment. So you don't get all the cash. You can't be trusted with all that cash.
So you will have to spend... what can I say?
I mean, I don't know. Presumably, will you be allowed to buy proper food with it? Or will you just be able to buy the crap that I refuse to eat?
And will you be able to buy fags with it as well? Sorry.
Oh, you won't be able to buy fags with it. No,
Sorry.
You can't look at them anymore.
That kind of reminds me of when I used to write gyros, and they made the gyro specific to the item that the decision maker wanted them to get, and it was always the cheapest item. So on the gyro, they would actually write an Argos catalogue number on the gyro, so they got exactly what they expected them to get.
No!
So it was very much controlled, and it was like that then, and just like they're gonna be giving it much wider scope. So God knows what's going to happen. I mean, they could be saying, okay, here's your shopping list for the week. It could be that stupid, but I know I'm making that up. But you know
No,
what I mean. But it could be that ridiculous that the amount of control that they may try to implement. I mean, is scary unto itself. But it's just, you know, because that seems step by step as if that's where it's heading, you know.
But it's a level, so they want to do that to control, but then they want to stop the, you know, take their hand away from you and let you pay your rent on your own after they've held your hand for so long. Rent could be costly, as we all know.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's like the whole. Well, it's like that. It's like that sort of spin-off balance between the, you know, so-called compassionate Labour government and then the Conservatives. I mean, it's like this whole thing where, Labour's, does all this for the people. I mean, Conservatives come in, they rip it all apart, and Labour comes in, does it again, and it's this complete entire circle that goes round and round and round with the whole politics game. Because they keep working on the same bloody ideas and system, and they haven't come up with anything new, and they never will come up with anything new, because it really is about, those who really control and run everything, and it's all based on, around the bank. So no matter who you vote for, it's going to be pointless. It's just that continuous circle. So, that's, it's really trying to, start with something new and try and get something developed from that. It's difficult. So we are in the system that we're in, and we have to survive within that system that we've got until something new. Well, it's all you have,
Oh yeah.
But that's at the moment is the only way we can go, and all we can do is just really work out how we can fight things, a better way. So yeah.
Solutions.
Solutions. Yeah, well, it has to be, doesn't there? Because if it gets worse and worse, for no matter what your position is, you got to find that solution out, and maybe I don't know, because they do seem to be really kind of ignoring a lot of laws. It's like they just couldn't care less about previous laws. It's like they no longer exist from their eyes, even common law. So they're just making shit up as they go along just to please themselves. And you have to really come back with them and say, well, you know what? Can't really do that because this law's a lot fucking older and a lot higher than the shit that you're coming out with. But that's the whole research idea. But that takes a lot of time, and maybe a lot of people who are in desperate situations, they can't put that time in because they're also they're very busy trying to sort out their lives.
Or can't because of another reason.
Exactly. This could be multiple reasons, but hopefully. With what time that some of us have, we have some time to help and to put information out there. Maybe that will help some, and they'll go and help others. That's all we can do, really, is to share the information and hope it expands and things will change. But there you go. That's just all I had to say about that.
I have one more thing, actually.
Go for it.
I don't know how we fixed on time. We good on time?
Yeah, I think we've got another 10 minutes.
Oh, that's cool. I won't read it all out because it's quite a lengthy one, but I found quite a nice positive news article that may actually have some hope for us, and this was tucked away on the BBC News site, and it's basically a study that's been done recently to look at how much it's called the Great Myth of Urban Britain, and they've looked at a particular study and geographically looked at how much of this country is urban, and come up with some very surprising information. They're saying in terms of just counting a city, I think they're looking at, 20% or something? Hang on, I've lost it again now. I think it was less than that, to be honest.
Okay, so but around that figure.
Let me have it. No, here we are. They're actually saying this actually came on the back because they're saying at the moment they've suddenly found out that they have 12.7% is woodland in this whole country. They're saying the whole UK. Okay. It's quite small, isn't it? That's quite worrying. And when you bear in mind that a lot of this is like pine plantations and not very nice forests, and to think that Britain used to be a major forest island, it's very small. But they're saying that's the biggest since 1924. But then they've actually done it in terms of the urban environment, and they're saying, at the moment, I know recently they said we definitely are an urban nation because more of us, they're saying, I think it's about 60 or could even be 80% of us now living in urban or suburban areas. And they're saying, but, in terms of the land itself, they've actually sat down, I think on here, here we are, 6.8% of UK's land area is now classified as urban. How about that one?
How much? Say that again. How many percent?
6.8% of the total UK landmass is urban. So there's not that much there. It breaks it down a bit further. Given we live in England, I think this is even going to boggle your mind, given you're right in the centre of London. They're saying 10.8% of England. So only 10%, just over, 1.9% of Scotland, 3.6% of Northern Ireland, and 4.1% of Wales.
No, I thought it would be more than that, you know.
Yeah. No, but, you know...
Who wrote that? Is it true?
This is actually, I think they said there was a big study. I'm going to put the links up. A bunch of scientists crunched some numbers, come up with this. But they're saying, in a sense on that, that's the raw data. And they've actually had to strip that down. They said in terms of, all right, that's how much. So you're saying like 10% of England. And they've actually broken this down just for England itself. All right, so you've got a general figure of 10% of urban areas. And they said, but all right, now you break that down further and you take in people's gardens, green spaces, parks, canal sides, verges, everything else. And even in England itself, the amount of built-on area is 2.27%. I mean, I really want to bring this up. I think the numbers are so impressive that we don't have to clear away much rubbish. There's plenty of open space there. They're actually saying, you know, it's, in a sense, these figures have astounded so many people because everyone lived their lives within the concrete.
And all that stuff about overpopulation because there's no resources, apparently.
Well, we are apparently, you know, we're a crowded island, are we not?
There's no
we are
room to
having
build.
housing problems.
Crowded within those small areas, perhaps only. Yeah, but what about the rest of it, yeah? Oh, we can't expand. Oh, no, we can't do that because there's somebody who claims ownership of all that land and they don't want you living there.
Of course not.
You know? That's for special people to have. That land, all of that. Hundreds of miles of it.
You're not special enough.
You've got to live in a hovel, mate. Yeah, well, we'll soon see about that.
Sorry, I just kicked my headphones off and I think I've messed up the connection on the laptop, so I'm having to hold it, so I'm really sorry, everyone. Right, we have Kazza with us.
Hello.
So how have you been? What have you been up to?
Yeah, hello folks, hello everybody there. Yes, I'm fine, thank you. I'm still here fighting the good fight. I haven't starved yet, so yeah, everything's all cool.
So how have your job centre antics been?
Yes, yeah, a bit of to report there. Just to clue anybody in that wasn't listening last week, you were talking about the work programme last week and the weeks before. So, okay, so for the folks, it was about the work programme and what was actually happening. My strategy was that I had some circumstances where they owed me some provision from a previous complaint, so I was actually taking breaks from my job seekers allowance whenever the introductory appointment for the work programme provider came up. So what I was actually doing was just taking a break, signing off job seekers allowance, so then I was not obligated to go to any appointments, and then signing on again. So last time we were chatting about that, that's been all well and good for a few times, so it's still going. Had a bit of news on that. I was expecting an envelope through the post saying I had to go to an appointment sort of this week, but didn't get one. Seems they're having a break as well, so I can sign on and continue as normal. So I've been given an appointment for 2 weeks hence. Funnily enough, they seem to send the appointments for sort of to overlap with when I'm supposed to be signing on, so I can't be in two places at once. But I'll keep that in my back pocket. But I did have some interesting development. You still there, Well Fairy?
Yeah, I think if you can hear me okay, I'll switch mics.
Right. Yes, I can hear you fine.
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. Right. Well, I had a letter through the post from the job centre which I've responded to. It was quite interesting. It was quite a short letter. This is from the Job Centre saying, we recently wrote to tell you that a doubt had arisen on your claim for job seekers allowance. Actually, they hadn't written to me at all. Next line, this was because you failed to attend an employment programme, which is also incorrect, hadn't failed to attend anything. And then the last bit was quite strange. It was a sort of a bit of a threat. So this was a bit bizarre because, in my opinion, it sort of crosses the line, and it's written as if I signed off, but actually at that time I received it, I was signed back on, and it says, as you are no longer claiming job seekers allowance and or national insurance credits, the doubt cannot be resolved at this time. However, should you make a further claim to job seekers allowance and or national insurance credits, this case may be looked at again. If you want to know more, please contact the office.
Could you read that again? Could you read that bit again?
Sorry, was it not good enough?
No, it was. I just want to hear it again, just to...
Yeah. It's quite a bizarre paragraph. I thought it was quite, quite amateur, but it was quite a gift, actually. I was quite pleased to receive it. Okay, here is his exact wording. It says, as you are no longer claiming job seekers allowance and or national insurance credits, the doubt cannot be resolved at this time. However, should you make a further claim to job seekers allowance and or national insurance credits, this case may be looked at again. If you want to know more about this matter, please contact this office and ask us to explain in more detail. And that's from my nemesis job centre manager at my nemesis job centre.
So sent from the job centre, not DWP.
Well, yes. So it's just so this is kind of personal, if you get me. And I actually looked at that and I thought, wow, this is quite amateur. So I replied in kind. My strategy is usually just to, reply and just for clarification and just to cover myself. But this one, I thought, well, actually, I need to just nip this in the bud. And because it sort of crosses the line, I thought, okay, well, I'll go to the line and meet you. So you still get me, okay?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, so here's what I did. I mean, I just replied to say the first couple of lines saying I received no such letter from you, nor to my knowledge is there any doubt regarding my JSA claim. And as with their sentence, because IFA failed to attend an employment programme, said this is incorrect. I've not failed to attend any appointment with you as per my job seekers agreement at any time during and within my recent JSA claim. So my last appointment, which I attended, and my next appointment with you is my signing day. I've not been informed of any other appointment. But for the last paragraph, I said, it sounds rather like a veiled threat, etc., etc. And then what I've done is, at the bottom of the letter, I've put a subject access request asking for a copy of the alleged letter of doubt.
Excellent.
You say you said to me. This is a good strategy, folks, because if somebody steps over the line, it's like, right, okay, you're doing what you shouldn't be doing here. Not that they do that anyway, but you're going over the line too much. So I'm gonna ask you to clarify that absolutely. So I've asked for a copy of the alleged letter of doubt, a copy of all data and material you hold, made, sent or received relating to the employment program referred to you in a letter, and the alleged failure to attend, including details of who raised the alleged doubt, who processed it, who acknowledged it, all processes involved. Please identify all members of staff involved, and also a copy of any data relating to the, commas, case that you refer to in your letter. One nice little thing I like to do with a subject access request is I like to put just a little cut and paste from the Information Commissioner's Office website telling them that they have 40 days, etc., etc. And then at the top of that, put it is mandatory, and I underline mandatory, that you will comply with 40 days. So So that was sort of like a curveball, but it was also like a gift as well. So I can clarify that. You still getting me okay?
Yeah, absolutely. But could you move your mic away a bit from your mouth? Just so you're a bit close. But otherwise, great.
Okay.
I bet they absolutely love you. I bet they do.
There's more, Welfairy. There's more.
Go.
You ready for this? Okay.
Yeah.
At the bottom of the page, because I thought, right, okay. So what they're saying to me is like, "Oh, we think we know what you're up to, so we can make a little threat," which shouldn't be doing. So they get me and they say, "Okay, this is me. You back that up." And at the bottom, I've put a little PTO continued over leaf. So you turn over, and there's 2 pages, 24 Freedom of Information request questions.
How many?
24.
Separate questions.
24. Yeah, it's my thing, Welfare. It's like how many. If I'm doing something like this, I'll make a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, and it's like, how many can I think of while I drink this cup of tea? So it's sort of like you.
Excellent.
You put pressure on me, I'll make you work for it, you know. But I thought actually of our discussion last week, so I thought I would include a couple for you.
Oh, good,
as
good.
well. So,
Thank you.
so what I've done, and if anybody's thinking of doing this, what you need to do is to ask a question. You've got to reel them in slowly. So you've got to get them where you want to. And remember, I'm not writing this necessarily for the answer or their non-answer. I'm writing to either report them to the ICO, or I'm writing for a future sort of appeal or a tribunal. You still getting me okay?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so I've just put quite a few questions. So please detail what job centre appointments, what kind of job centre plus appointments a JSA claimant is obliged to attend whilst in receipt of job seekers allowance. So they'll just say you're allowed, you should attend all of them.
Yeah.
The next one is the cut and paste, obliged to attend whilst not in receipt of job seekers allowance.
Okay.
And if obligated to attend any related points, please state why and give specific examples and include any guidance. And if you're not obliged to attend any job centre related points for question 2, please state why. So they clarify that. And then I've done that again. If there's any obligation to attend any introductory appointment to an employment programme, e.g. the work programme, if in receipt of job seekers allowance, that's a yes.
Yeah.
If so, detail which parts, areas, activities of it are voluntary, which are mandatory. And then the next question, obviously, cut and paste. If not in receipt of job seeker allowance. So you set the territory there.
And you kind of lead them through.
Yeah. And then I've gone down, please detail whose responsibility it is to cancel any future job centre or job centre related appointments if a JSA claimant signs off. Obviously it's your obligation, not mine, your responsibility. Yeah. I put in a couple here relating to the job centre plus work programme documents. Is there any obligation to sign the data protection waiver for the provider? We know that, but I'm just letting them know that I know that.
Yeah.
And which work programme provider documents are mandatory sign and which are not. So they'll probably send the guidance on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I put one in for you here. If the work programme provider or related work experience, activity or placement company do not have or cannot provide an up-to-date current health and safety certificate, is the JSA claimant obliged to attend?
Excellent, thank you.
That one was for you. Yeah.
Thank you. That'd be interesting.
Then I asked the manager, who is the line manager of what's a job centre? Then when is your next work performance review and who will be conducting it?
Oh, you're asking them for that. Oh.
I'm going to get in contact with that person and say, oh, this person tried to threaten me. You know, how many complaints has X job centre received? Please provide a breakdown of the last 5 years, including verbal, written, formal complaints.
You're going to upset them.
Oh, they're going to hate you. They
Hang
really
on.
are.
There's more. And if, last question, there's no record of verbal complaints, why is this? Because they have to record them, but they don't. How many complaints have been made against or concerning you, Ms. Manager of the how many sanctions has this job centre plus attempted against its claimants and customers? Please provide a breakdown of the last 5 years, including successful, unsuccessful, and those that won or lost on appeal. Which should be interesting. I put in it, is it acceptable for Job Centre Plus managers to make a threat or veiled threat to a Job Centre Plus claimant or to threaten their financial position? So I'm setting territory here, I'm setting boundaries. In making a threat or veiled threat to a JSA claimant, which part of the DWP Job Centre Plus employment contract agreement is this in breach of, and what are the likely disciplinary action would be recommended required in such a case? Then I've asked one for myself if there's a pre-existing complaint and or ongoing complaint regarding provision, e.g. with DW Job Centre Plus Flexible New Deal or the work programme, is the claimant obligated to take part in another provision, e.g. work programme, if it will potentially or possibly affect, thwart, scupper complaint resolution and or act against the claimant's complaint resolution interests. So just to finish up, another one on that. If there's a pre-existing complaint, ongoing complaint regarding provision, are Job Centre Plus allowed to take actions that will or may affect the outcome or resolution of that complaint? Next question, what actions can they take and what actions can they not take? So just honing it down, sort of clarifying the situation, saying this is really the situation, and I'm going to get you to clarify it, and then you'll have to act accordingly.
And you're going to get them to clarify it bit by bit, aren't you?
Which guidance prevents a job centre employee or manager from interfering and or trying to derail an ongoing or previous complaint? Are Job Centre Plus allowed to refer a JSA claimant to the work programme if a pre-existing provision arrangement is still outstanding, yet to be delivered, one which the JSA claimant has previously agreed or awaiting delivery of? If a job centre manager is fully aware that pre-existing complaint is ongoing, outstanding complaints, but attempts to alter this resolution, e.g. by referral to the work programme, what is the procedure to report and prevent this from happening, and what typical disciplinary action would be taken against the manager in this case? Here's the kicker. I know we were talking off air last time, and I just thought actually I'd throw this in just for the listeners. We were chatting about. I had one incident where I had a malicious call, and I believed it was from somebody at the data controller who handles freedom of information requests or subject access requests, and it was somebody I think that got bollocked. And they got their boyfriend or husband to phone me up and make a malicious call. Do you remember us talking about that?
I think, yeah, I do. I do remember you mentioning it, but do you think it was somebody actually doing that, was told to do that?
Yeah. Well, I did actually report that to the police, if you remember, but of course there was no follow-up. So I thought I would just throw this in just for a laugh, really. This is sort of my attempt at the longest sentence in the world, just to make them wake up and take a bit of notice. And I put, if a job centre manager or an employee or manager in the data controller department or any employee or manager responsible for replying to subject access requests and or freedom of requests were aware that another employee or manager is responsible for making, organising or taking part in a threatening, malicious and abusive phone call to a JSA claimant, and then in brackets, which would constitute an offence under Section 43 of the Telecommunications Act 1984 and Section 92 of the Criminal Justice and Public Order Act 1994, end of brackets, and using and accessing their private details for that purpose, what would be the process and consequences of such actions B for that employee or manager, and then brackets MB, I wish to report such an incident. So that's the little wake up at the end. And I cut and paste a little disclaimer saying, if any of this information is freely available, e.g. on the internet, please provide specific links to where specific information can be currently found, e.g. paragraph, page numbers, etc. Do not provide just generic links. Provide the detailed specific reference for each specific question asked. And then I've done the bit at the end. I put it is mandatory, underlined that you comply within 20 working days, and the cut and paste from the Freedom of Information Act. So it's sort of like, oh, you think you can sort of spoil my weekend with your little letter, so
They certainly didn't spoil yours, did they?
how about I spoil your week?
God.
So what I'm doing now, I'm not just being a pedantic sort of idiot there. What I'm doing is I'm setting out all the boundaries to protect myself. So when they come back with lame answers, two paths. If there is a sanction, I've got it there saying, well, look, I tried to ask all this. I think Nick touched on this last week. So I tried to ask all this. You didn't give me the full information. You know what the situation is fully. So I'm covered if there was an appeal at an appeal tribunal. But also, I'm going to now slur your name and report you to the Information Commissioner's Office. I know, sovereigns, yes, it's all a fiction, but we're dealing in a situation where you have to deal with these people. So it's sort of, don't actually tolerate them stepping over that line. They're there to serve me and you. They're not there to make sort of veiled threats when all I'm doing is, having the odd break in my JSA claim. So, do you like my letter?
I love the letter. I think it's absolutely great. I really do. It's absolutely fabulous. That'll take somebody an awfully long time.
That is one cup of tea for me.
I think you will turn a job centre manager's brain to jelly.
Okay. Do you want the surprise?
That wasn't the surprise.
Well, when I went down there, I was talking to some old guy on the desk, and I said, I've got a letter here for your manager. And because it's subject access freedom of information request, I said it's private confidential, so can you deliver it unopened? But in the contents, I have to just make you aware it's me. So here's my identity, and held up my my unemployment card. Plus, I had my passport there. So just you confirm it's me. This is me sending it. And the guy says, "Oh, that manager's now moved on somewhere. They've left." And it's like, "Oh, really?" that's quite bizarre because I've just had a letter from them, So I've had to give that to the new manager. But this is either that manager's already had a nervous breakdown or gone off sick, or one tactic they do like is to revolve staff and revolve managers, and particularly their assistants. So, if you are dealing with anything, then it just gets delayed. You still there?
Yep. Yeah, sorry, I'm just having problems with my mic, so I'm sort of muting in and out. I'm getting sort of feedback from you guys, so I'm having to mute out whenever anyone else is speaking. So I am here.
Yeah. Okay.
I think you're having a good time doing this as well, which is fantastic, and giving them so much work. That will be so much work for somebody.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they have to do it, and I will follow it up as well per question.
Oh, I know.
So,
I know you will.
I mean, a couple of other things. I have. I've also reported this new provider to the Information Commissioner's Office. That was even more bizarre because I sent a subject access request wanting to know exactly what information they had or had been sent by the job centre, and they didn't reply to it. They replied saying in one of our earlier replies we sent our guidance notes to you, which was a lie. And then they replied the next time saying, oh, we sent that the first time, and we've also sent your Freedom of Information request answers with the first reply. So in my last reply, it was like, well, that was rather strange because I didn't actually make my Freedom of Information request till a day later than you say you sent it to me. So,
oh dear.
So I said, well, good luck with the IOC, the ICO on that one. So I got a letter back saying because they're not, they don't class themselves as a public body, they are not obligated to answer. a Freedom of Information request, which is interesting because they're
Really?
they're working on a contract for a public body. And the whole thing about data is, as they are I think it's a secondary user under the Data Protection Act, for a public body, they have access to a certain amount of data, which should be just enough to contact you. So what they should have is my name and address and maybe a telephone number, nothing more. But that was quite interesting, I thought. So I've actually reported them to the Information Commissioner's Office for refusing freedom of information and also for not sending my subject access request details. But they sent me the guidance at the last thing saying, we want our £10 and fill this in for your identity, which is, again, breaking rules because you have to say that quite quickly if you want payment or you want identity cleared up, but they were quite happy with my identity before. So I've reported them. So I think I'm at the stage where I'm, dealing a bit with the Information Commissioner's Office. So just expose them, set my boundaries, and see where that goes.
I don't know that much about the ICO particularly. Do you, Nick?
I never even got to the stage with that. I think I've done some subject access requests. Only in light of that, I would say, I think there was one got me so angry, I decided to cross every T and actually told them the date. I said, you have 40 days, so you must reply by this date. But other than that, what you say is just send them a huge list of questions. Get them.
I would say it's a great leverage. All the questions are genuine. And, my request for my data is genuine. It's my data. It's my property. I want to know what you're doing with it. But it's great if they cross the line. You can come back at them and say, OK, well, let's just clarify this and let's just clarify a few things. And you can put them to work. It's a very good strategy, I think, for setting your boundaries. And, OK, it's a bit like she said, he said, you said, I said sort of thing. But it actually puts them into a corner saying you either have to say this or you don't, or if you don't saying it, why aren't you saying it? It's getting them to respond to you. And I always work from the position of, hang on, I'm in control of this, not you. I'm not going to be controlled by you. My sovereignty thing is I always have the locus of control. So if you're going to send me 3 or 4 lines on a letter and you're even moving office, and essentially you're threatening me, which is quite a bizarre threat, which I read out earlier. It's like saying, oh, we think we know what you're up to, and just, be careful. And it's like, okay, well, come on then, sanction me. Sanction me if you think you're hard enough.
Yeah.
I think there's another thing as well. You talk about subject access request. That, in a way, it's a great place for anyone to start. If anyone's got any problem with benefits, it's a matter of it levels the playing field. It's a case of, well, show me all your papers. Show me all your papers. Give me an explanation. It must be a plain English explanation.
Show me the guidance.
Yeah, show me what this says. Show me why it means what it says. Show me how you decided it. Show me the logic process of how you decided it. It's a case of you specify everything, and I think as well, you try and be as specific as possible. If it's one problem, it's sometimes easier to narrow in on that, where you say you've had this one specific letter, and you can do 24 odd questions. But the more you can question on those specific items, again, it's sending a message to them too, a case of, right, you want to try anything with me, you will have to take each thing step by step, slowly. You'll have to justify everything you do along the way. And
you can kind of imagine them sat there, with their cup of tea. Oh, right, this is from him. This is his response. And they think, oh, yes, right. Oh, one of those is it. And then they turn over the page and, oh, my God, So it's sort of like, and you know what? I don't, listening to Neo's story earlier, I very seldom have any problem when I sign on. It was quite good that I could sign on this week because it keeps the housing benefit fresh, and I don't have to chase anything for a couple of weeks. So I've got a reprieve there. It's sort of screwed up my strategy hardball, but whenever I go to sign on, it was absolutely cool as a breeze, and you just get this feeling, don't mess with this guy because he'll deal with you.
That's kind of what I'm hoping.
I mean, there's like you were saying, there's a lot of tactics there. I mean, you were saying that you went to that meeting down on the other floor. I would have put my foot down there and said, no, I'm here for a signing on appointment. That's it. So I'm signing on at this desk. I'm not going anywhere else with you for any other kind of appointment, period. And so that's my nice little story. So it's all going well, and I'm having fun. I'm not being bullied. And, if they're trying it on with me, then they're getting it back in their face.
Guys, sorry, we're going to have to wind up, I think. I know I've been told we've got sort of...
Appreciate we're running over.
Okay. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Just really quickly, what I do want to say is, having thought about it and looked at what you're doing, it looks like the way you're going about it is the only way that you can carry on claiming JSA and not be sanctioned for non-attendance to work programme interviews. If anyone else has an alternative or thinks they have another way that you can carry on getting your JSA, not be sanctioned, not have to participate in work programme, please let us know, because obviously we want to talk to you. As far as I can see, this is the only way. Hard work, but...
Yeah, it's not for everybody. I accept that. It's not easy, but if you're on top of it and you're confident, you'll be fine. I think if you know what you're doing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Kazza. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Neo.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wild Swan.
Thank you.
This has been Welfare in the Welfare. Jesus, I can barely speak. This has been Welfare and Welfare All Stars on tnsradio.ning.com and ScottishSovereignSonTheLand.ning.com. You can contact any of us on team@welfare.org.uk. There's contact page on one of the pages there. If you email us, one of us will get back in touch with you. But, please do. I haven't looked in the chat box to say, I can't multitask. You know by now that I can't. So I'll read back, and if anyone needs anything, give us a shout. Cheers for listening, guys. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Neo. And thank you, Kazza.
Keep it real.
Keep it real.
Keep confident.
Absolutely.